you want answers to these and many more questions. Call 770-696-9862 and speak to a representative of the Atlanta Healing Center. They can tailor a program specifically designed to address the needs of the person suffering with an addiction or give you guidance as to where that help may be found. Information is the key, and the trained staff at AHC is here to assist. If you wish, you can also get more information on the website located at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Good morning, everybody. Joe Gavalis again with the Safe Senior Hour. I hope you all are doing well. Today we have an interesting show. We're going to start off with an update on scams from a recent survey that I saw. And then we're going to move in, and we're very honored to have as a guest Lynne Reeves, the director of the Northwest Georgia Area Agency on Aging. She's been a guest before. But we're going to talk about in the second half hour about education for the listeners and for your communities, what you can do or what you can suggest to talk about elder abuse. And again, for our discussions, elder abuse are three types of abuse. One is physical, which I think pretty much speaks for itself. The second is financial, which is by far the largest. And the third is institutional abuse. And these are affect people no matter what sex or status, social status. They can affect everybody all over the world, obviously all over the United States, all over the world. So our first topic today is on scams and information. When I say information, is that there was a survey done. And it's entitled "Exposed to Scams: What separates victims from non-victims." And what this is very interesting. This was a survey done by 5 individuals supported by the Federal Trade Commission, among other things, and the International Association of Better Business Bureaus. And this survey had 1,408 Americans and Canadians who were targeted and reported a scam. And it was interesting in their survey. Apparently, out of that roughly 1,400 who reported a scam to one of the reporting agencies, 47% of them didn't engage. Means they got a phone call and listened to the listened to the message, listened to a voicemail, observed it on the email, but didn't engage in any further conversation or in any other action to continue. So therefore, they didn't engage and they were not victimized. 30% engaged but did not lose money, which means they chatted, interacted, but didn't go any farther. And we'll go through some of those statistics of why they didn't go any farther. But 23%, about a quarter of this 1,400 people engaged and ultimately lost money. And that's kind of enlightening to me. I thought I thought it would be less than that, but a quarter of the people who engaged and didn't back out ended up losing money. The way that they lost money were dealing with how they got engaged. For example, if it was a phone call or was it on the internet. Internet, as we talked about many times on the show, gives people a lot of courage and a lot of chance to be somebody they're not, to say things that aren't true. Because you can erase it, delete, and do what you like, and just move on. Of course, phones are more personal. Of course, in person is face to face here. They said that that specifically Scams involving online purchases correlated with the highest levels of engagement and victimization. In other words, people telling you can purchase this, you can buy things, you can do things. People will get more engaged and end up getting more involved in the scams here. The survey goes into approximately, it says 1 in 10 in the United States are victims of fraud each year. So 1 in 10 of adults are victims, and reported lost complaints to the Federal Trade Commission, which I thought was kind of interesting. This study shows 25%. They're estimating 1 in 10% of all people in America. Some of the factors to why they got engaged, or what related to being a victim. Remember, that's the purpose. There's a lot of incidental conversations, incidental communication between people, but until you're really a victim, it's basically innocent or something that you, as people like to say, they're toying with people on the phone or on the internet. But once you're a victim, you're a victim. And it says here the first step to being victimized by a scam is to engage with a fraudster. So it's very interesting to me to see that 40% of the survey, the respondents rejected the offer outright. They hung up, closed the link, ignored the emails, threw away the mailer, deleted the friend's request, or otherwise refused to comply. The refusal to engage, as the survey says, was the predominant response in bogus tax and other debt collection scams, and in phishing scams where fraudsters impersonate a trustworthy entity to mislead the target. But 30% of the people in the survey engaged in some degree. And as we go out and speak to seniors throughout North Georgia, it's our instructions, and we say it on the radio, are don't answer the phone or talk to somebody you don't know. Let them leave a message, find out what they want, and then let your judgment lead you what you should do. But these instantaneous calls where people talk to you or get you on the email and get you into an email conversation, just back off, take a deep breath. And remember, on the phone calls, on the phone scams, if you don't know the number, don't answer it. Wait to see what the message is, and then you independently call that entity. But I think the significance on this part is that when people saw and suspected a scam, they didn't engage. They didn't go any farther. But other people who they say when you talk to these seniors, that they like to just toy and play with the people on the phone, that they engaged but weren't victimized. They realized it was a scam, but didn't go any farther. But 23, almost 25% of the people surveyed who got victimized continued the discussion. So some people out there are using common sense and looking at it here. They have a table here, or a review of some of their results, and it showed that on online purchases scams, that 84% engaged and 47% lost money. The next one is tech support, and we've spoken about that on many occasions. A lot of times there'll be a red screen come up, or block on your screen saying you've been victimized by malware or text or things like that. And here it is, shut down your computer, pay this money. And we've talked about some of the arrests that have been made in these type of scams of millions and millions of dollars. But tech support, 64% engaged and 32% lost money. And then it goes down to all the way down to The tax collection, 15% engage, and sweepstakes lottery is pretty high, 60% engage, but only 15% lost money. So the idea of engagement and looking at it, the highest percent of engagement, according to the respondents to the survey, were those who were exposed to a fraud via a website and said they engaged. Meaning something came in, they saw it, and they responded, somehow answered the email, answered the request, things like that. I think that's pretty significant. They have a table also, engagement and victimization rates by type of contact. And as we've told you many times here, scamsters will use phone call, voicemail, an email, website, social media, and the old, as people call it, snail mail, postal mail. By far the social media and website are by far the biggest ones that people engage in. People like to answer their Facebook pages and Twitter and things like that. Social media, and that's where that comes from, is according to a study, 91% of the people engaged, wanted to see what was said, wanted to see who said it. And out of those, 53% of them lost money. Kind of interesting. The least amount was around postal mail and voicemail, when people leave you a voicemail. Why were some of these people, and we've talked about this, why didn't they go any farther, or what was their concern? Well, one of the quotes was, sounded like a sheriff's deputy, and he was threatening me with immediate arrest if I didn't comply. I was caught off guard and insufficiently informed. Some of the other reasons were they seemed official. I was under the pressure, time pressure. That's just like a used car salesman or some salesman that says, this deal's only good now, and if you don't take it now, it'll never be here, which is almost never a true statement. Now, it can mean many things to many people. That's why they try to put you under time pressure. Do it now. Other comment was, I thought the person was nice. These are professionals you're dealing with. They should be nice. They're not there to antagonize you. They're there to get your money. So we got to remember that. I worried about missing out on an opportunity was another response. Well, that's that one in a lifetime deal. So we have to take care and be significant of that. And of course, the other ones, when they called on various occasions, they felt intimidated. And a couple of the other ones, I had an opportunity to get ahead financially. I deserved to be rewarded. I had an opportunity to make good on a past mistake. I wanted to please the person I was dealing with, and I felt afraid of being punished. These are some of the reasons people gave. So with that, we're going to end our first segment and come back to this scam study because it's very important, and some of these statistics are very enlightening. So with that, we'll
You can keep your doctor, you can keep your plan, and every family will save thousands of dollars a year. I'm Ellen Deal, and if you've been hurt by the Affordable Care Act, you can email MAGA45CAG@gmail.com to see if we can help. Small business owners, individuals, families, and baby boomers, email MAGA45CAG@gmail.com for 3 easy questions to determine if you can get away from Obamacare. I'm a 20-year veteran of the insurance industry and here to help you for all your insurance needs.
Whether cruising the strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
The Docs for Patient Care Foundation is your way to join the fight and become a member of an organization created by doctors for patients, dedicated to fighting for your healthcare freedom and preserving the doctor-patient relationship. Get a pen and paper. Write down docs4patientcarefoundation.org. That's DOCS, the number 4, patientcarefoundation.org. Go to our site and please make a generous tax-deductible donation and join the fight today. Thank you.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Welcome back to segment 2 of the Safe Senior Hour with Joe Gavalis. Today we have an interesting show. Our first half we're talking about scams. A survey that I found online actually is on the Baker Fraud Report, and you can go look at it. Baker Fraud Report, I recommend many people, or a lot of people, if you're interested, to go look at that. Baker Fraud Report comes out almost every week and gives you the best record of that I found on ongoing scams and some conclusions to investigations and these surveys. Then we're going to be, for our third and fourth hour, we're going to be with Lynne Reeves, the director of Northwest Georgia Area Agency on Aging. They're known as AAAs all over the United States. But these are people out in various areas, and her area is basically deals with primary rural area of Georgia, how people can educate themselves and have their community take an active part in educating themselves against elder abuse. But we're going to go back to our survey now, and we're going to talk about, preventing financial fraud, what the survey showed there. And I thought this was very, very informative. A comment was, I suspected it was a scam very early on, but I didn't pay attention to my instincts. Usually if you talk to people, your first instinct is correct, but people continue because, they want to believe. They want to believe it's, if it's too good to be true, it isn't true. These are things that we have to remember here. The survey, and will lead into our second part of our program today, but the survey indicates that having prior knowledge about fraud is particularly helpful in avoiding victimization. That is the main issue, and that's what the North Georgia Elder Abuse Task Force and many, many organizations throughout the United States and the world are trying to do right now, is to educate the public on these scams and on all elder abuse, whether it be physical, financial, institutional, which I think that's pretty significant. And so the question is, what's the best way to educate people? Some factors that they have a chart associated with not being a victim. They knew about methods of the scammers. They heard about it, whether it would be on the media, whether it would be in person, whether it would be documents, whether it be on the web. The 71% felt something was not right. And that is kind of a good indication of listen to your instincts. Talk to somebody else. Another reason was they knew about the scam type from education, whether it be the tax scam, the jury scam, the DNA scam, the grandparent scam. I can go on the lottery scam. If they hear about it and know about it, that's going to kind of keep people from, importantly, not engaging with these people. Some people had prior experience with scams. So, you're not going to get, you're going to, burn me once, but you're not going to burn me twice. Some very, very astute people researched the scammer offer independently. They didn't believe what the person said, didn't believe the offer, and therefore, they decided that this was not the appropriate deal for them to enter into. And then others actually went as far as check the background of the scammer. If they could find information on the person or the person's doing the scam, they would do a background. And they do that over the internet. I think if you go on the internet, you'll see these websites. You can go and look at how to do backgrounds on people. A lot of the people said if they had done research before making the purchase, or if they would talk to somebody prior to engaging in more conversations with the scammer. And that's what we've always said. Have somebody, I'm sure there's somebody in your life that you can talk to, or you can call somebody in a faith-based community. You can call somebody in the local government that you know. Call the local law enforcement officers. Report what you think is a suspicious scam. Or you can go online and report it and find out. But that's very very important to look at it and listen what people are telling you. Read what they say. Remember, read all the fine print, because that's what helps here. How do they learn about fraud? We're going to talk about that in the next segment, about how to help your community and yourself. But by far, there was news stories, whether it be in the paper or being on your TV. There's been a lot of series here in Georgia on TV concerning the issues in various senior homes. The print media is doing articles like that. So in your area, I'm sure the same type of information is going on. They did the survey and asked the question, what would be a good source to learn about scams, and where did you learn about scams? Remember, this is a survey of 1,400 people in the United States and Canada. Most of them thought where they learned about the scam and where would be a good source, it's the news stories. And I think if you go online or you watch your local TV, radio, or print media, I think that is very accurate. I mean, because they visually show you what's going on, and that helps. The next one is a website, and there are a lot of websites out there you can go to. The Better Business Bureau, the Federal Trade Commission, for some of them, the websites for the newspapers, for the news media, for the TV stations, that they all have, you go on there and they'll talk about it. Another example is public service announcements. I know we tried to do some here. Every TV station or radio has the availability of time to do public service announcements. We try to do that, but again, it only reaches so many people. The other is trying to get it out in social media. I mean, social media is the big source of information for many people these days. So we do use here social media. A lot of other entities use social media. When we talk about education and community, we go out and talk to seniors and tell them that they're like the eyes and ears, and they can spread the truth about scams. So therefore, it's the word of mouth. And it's very important because seniors and elders talk to one another, or they end up in different groups and they pass on what they hear, for example, from our seminars, but hear from other ones, to their friends and loved ones. Educational brochures. We issue some brochures. The police departments, we'll talk about that in the next segment. Brochures are to summarize what people need to look at and be aware of. And then the least, because you can't get to that many people, are in-person meetings and seminars. That's why we say when we talk to 50 seniors, or we're going to have a meeting coming up here, it'll be 100 to 150 seniors. If they go out and each one of them talk to one, and then each person down there talks to another person, that's how the by word of mouth how things get reported and get people to be aware of what's going on. Another perception that a fraudster is official is highly associated with being a victim. And we have spoken about that many times on people calling saying they're from the IRS and they'll have somebody come out and arrest you if you don't pay this money immediately. Or they're from the sheriff's office or from the U.S. Marshals and you fail to appear for jury duty, or you fail to appear in court. That gives the idea of officialdom. And again, that's one of the situations that they're trying to make you feel immediate response is needed and you need to take action or else. Let me just say, from my 30 years of being a retired federal agent, I can't remember, and talking to local officers and state officers, of anybody calling somebody up and saying, we're coming to arrest you. Because frankly, if you called me instead of coming to arrest me, I probably wouldn't be there. I'd be somewhere, probably going to my lawyer's office or going somewhere. That more than half the people who responded, which is very significant, reported a third party. That person that I was just talking to, a close friend, a close relative, faith-based, the state or federal people, or your government entities, or the local law enforcement, that if you could talk to them before you go and proceed to entertain spending money, more than likely to somebody you never met, never saw, and only believe what they say on the phone or say on the internet. And remember, the internet gives people a lot of courage. So, and of course, knowledge is power, and we've always said that. That's what education's about. And again, just, we talked about before, the gut feeling. Let your gut feeling rule here. The point we're going to end here with is that that by far that there is no difference between men, women. Many people in the survey had a college degree, whether you're married or unmarried or unemployed. So there's no one victim. So with that, we're going to break on this second segment. We're coming back with Lynne Reeves and her, hopefully her assistant, Lindsay Wilson, to talk about educating yourself and your community to fight elder abuse.
The Docs for Patient Care Foundation is your way to join the fight and become a member of an organization created by doctors for patients, dedicated to fighting for your healthcare freedom and preserving the doctor-patient relationship. Get a pen and paper. Write down docs4patientcarefoundation.org. That's DOCS, the number 4, patientcarefoundation.org. Go to our site and please make a generous tax-deductible donation and join the fight today. Thank you.
If your health insurance premium is more than your mortgage, Ellen Deal with Ideal Solutions is here to help. Whether you're a small business owner, individual, family, or baby boomer, email maga45cag@gmail.com and I'll respond with 3 easy questions to help you determine if you can get away from Obamacare. As a 20-year veteran of the insurance industry, I'm here to help with all your insurance needs. Email Ellen Deal at maga45cag@gmail.com.
Perhaps you are struggling to cope with the disease of addiction. If not, you probably know a family member or friend that needs help in battling the cravings and the personal and professional damage done by the effects of drugs or alcohol. Get a pen and paper and be ready to write down the following. These are the issues that the trained staff at the Atlanta Healing Center address and treat every day. Their doctors and counselors with over 40 years of practice in the field of addiction can treat the suffering individual in a thoughtful, compassionate, and experienced manner and guide him or her along the path to recovery. So call 770-696-9862 and speak to a knowledgeable staff member about how you or your loved one can be helped to enjoy a better and healthier life. More information is also available on the website at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
Get your pen and paper ready. If there's a move in your near future, I'm here to tell you that the folks I used and now recommend is Around Town Movers. Timothy and the guys recently moved me, and I am and was totally satisfied with a sometimes not so fun experience moving. Call Timothy at 770-378-4708 and make it a good move and a good experience. Around Town Movers for that local or cross-country move. Timothy, Around Town Movers, in my opinion, are the best. That's Around Town Movers. Call them.
Lynn, can you hear me all right?
Hey, Joe, it's Lynn and Lindsay.
Oh, good.
Okay. Hang on a second. Okay, we're coming back to you in 3, 2, 1. It's yours.
Welcome back to the third segment of the Safe Senior Hour. We're very fortunate to have as our guest Lynne Reeves, the director of Northwest Georgia Area Agency on Aging, and Lindsay Wilson, who's the assistant director. And we appreciate you all coming on. You've been guests before, and what we're going to talk to today, and what we kind of did when we did a joint presentation up in Nashville the other day to about 7 representatives of 7 states, is how education works for the individual, and how you can help your communities help educate your seniors and elders against elder abuse. So welcome today, Lindsay and Lynn.
Thank you. Thank you.
We just had in our last segment, we had I was reading from a survey that was done just recently, basically funded by the Federal Trade Commission and the Better Business Bureau. And they discussed in detail, they interviewed 1,500 people and or had a survey, 1,500 people. And the biggest issue that came out of there was education. So that was the biggest reason people didn't enter into scams, because they heard about it. And I know you all are kind of the, I'll just be honest about it, probably the leaders in the state of Georgia, if not the Southeast, and promoting that for your area. So give us an idea, how big is your area, how many people, and then we'll talk about what you all are doing to help educate people about fighting elder abuse.
Sure. We are located in Rome, Georgia, which is the center for a 15-county area in Northwest Georgia. So we travel a lot. We're responsible for a lot of different individuals in Northwest Georgia, but we provide funding for 19 senior centers in the area, and that's one of the places that we begin to work with and to reach out to do education and outreach about elder abuse, financial, physical exploitation. We, like you said, it's our goal is just to educate them. That's how it started, and then we reach out to faith-based communities, civic groups, because there's a lot of individuals that don't attend senior centers, and we still need to be able to provide those folks with the information. We also send out flyers through our home to clients that are primarily living at home. They receive our home-delivered meals, and we send written information to them. But if I could just back up and
Sure.
say,
Sure, go ahead.
being willing to sit down at the table to hold these conversations. When you first reached out to us to tell us about the Elder Abuse Task Force, we didn't know anything about that, but just being willing to listen and willing to go out in the communities. We've met and developed strong partnerships through this process with our local law enforcement, with our adult protective service agencies, and many others. And now we can just quickly call on them, and we just assist each other in so many ways, besides just the clients one-on-one, but also our community partners.
Well, you have made available to the North Georgia Elder Abuse Task Force your counterparts throughout Georgia, and especially the northern part of Georgia, and we have interacted with them, and all of you are trying to get the message out. So my hat's off to you. Just to let our listeners know, through your hard work and others, we've reached in person probably close to 3,000 seniors where we've spoken to over the last 5 years. So that's significant.
Right, and then we've talked before about just like this broadcast. Hopefully, will reach a large number of seniors, but we also do radio shows locally. We do a Savvy Senior show that we go on periodically to not only talk about our services, but to talk about the issues that impact seniors, such as scams. We also do a monthly show in one of our northern counties where we educate. So that has been a very useful tool also through the radio broadcast.
Right. I think that and we'll go into the communications that by how you get the information out, how everybody should. And again, as you know, this goes nationwide, worldwide. So are there your counterparts, to your knowledge, in every state? The area agency on aging, are they normally in every state or region, or how does that? What's your knowledge on that?
They're in every state.
Wow.
They may be divided. In our state, in the state of Georgia, there are 12 area agency on aging, which means there's 12 directors that are my counterpart. And in the other states, it's similar. I just am not sure about their geographic, how
Sure.
they're divided throughout the state. So yes, if there's any question in someone's state or community, they should absolutely. There's a state unit on aging or a division of aging services in each state, and they should contact them to see what their local contact would be.
Right. I think that's absolutely a great advice, and the more we get educated, both as an individual, which you can go on websites and you can read or watch news or read, that's one thing. But to try to get the community involved, which you all did was just wonderful. So you talked about the first thing about being involved in senior centers. How do you do that? I mean, there's something about, we try to tie it in with meals. How does that work?
I'm going to turn that over to Lindsay, how she goes about scheduling these.
I mean, basically, we just reach out to the senior center site managers, and we just try to see what their availability is on their calendars, and just, get a date inked in, and then contact you all and the North Georgia Elder Abuse Task Force, and then from there we contact local law enforcement, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and just try to get all participants, just everybody together to have a conversation with the people in the senior center.
Right, and for a lot of people out there who don't know about senior centers, there's and it totally enlightened me because I wasn't aware of what went on. But could you go in some of it? I know some of it. There are meals you can get there. There's different things they do. That can you just kind of run that down, because it's a great meeting place for people.
Sure. So the senior centers in our 15 county area, most of those provide a lunch, which is called a congregate meal site, and so they're able to go in and have lunch. And the site manager there at the senior center schedule activities most days of the week so that the seniors can have some sort of social interaction with each other, have activities planned, and also a meal. So it's a nice place for the citizens to be able to gather.
Now, are these meals, are they you have to pay for them, or how does that work in senior centers that you're familiar with?
The senior centers that we oversee, we are provided federal funding and some state funding to provide meals in the centers. At this time, there is not a charge for that, but they are allowed to contribute, or we encourage them to contribute. That's totally up to them. Now, in some states, that may be different. Some states do have a cost share associated with their meals. Just in Georgia, we do not. Not in Northwest Georgia.
I do know in some of the ones in your area that these meals are really looked upon. I think there's some additional charge, or maybe $2 or $3. I've heard as much as $5. But the meals are really looked upon by people. The menus are printed. What will be for lunch, through the week or Thursday, and people should take advantage of that. And it's correct.
Absolutely. Now the centers that we fund, there is no cost for the meal. Again, they can voluntarily donate. But there are other centers in counties that we don't fund that are operated through the city, the county governments, or even through the rec department. Those centers often have meals. They do print those menus ahead of time, and they're very active too. It's just our thing is just get engaged. The meals that we oversee have to meet certain nutritional requirements that go with the Older Americans Act in the state of Georgia. So ours are a little more intense. We work with a dietitian to ensure those menus meet those guidelines, and we work on a 4-week cycle menu that we print. So yeah, they're very aware of what they're going to be served, and it's a very nutritious meal that we're serving.
Well, I like that. I like the idea, and I've been there to watch the interactions, and thanks to Lindsay and Lynn, we have plan our talks on elder abuse. And I say talks, they're more like a conversation with the seniors right around, or usually right before lunchtime. But people are there, and they do want to, they do interact, and they're there. And I think that's something communities throughout the United States can do, I think. I mean, go ahead.
And just, we mentioned faith-based groups. A lot of older adults, if it's a larger church, they typically have a senior group that meets once a month or every other month, and that is again usually around lunchtime. Some churches do potluck, some have a meal catered in, but we do our presentation around lunch, and they have a large gathering at that time, so it has worked very well for us.
Well, I think it's great, and I think it's one of those things that enlightened me when you went out, that there is a need for this. Mm-hmm. As the survey talks about various areas that sources of information that need to be addressed, and I think reading this from the survey that I'm going to go over with you all in the last segment here, we're about to break, but go over about these other sources of information and just show everybody out there how you all have used this from day one to get information out about elder abuse problems. But with that, we're going to end our third segment and look forward to coming back with Lynn and Lindsay for our fourth and final segment.
The Docs for Patient Care Foundation is your way to join the fight and become a member of an organization created by doctors for patients dedicated to fighting for your healthcare freedom and preserving the doctor-patient relationship. Get a pen and paper. Write down www.docsforpatientcarefoundation.org. That's www.docsforpatientcarefoundation.org. Go to our site and please make a generous tax-deductible donation and join the fight today. Thank you.
If your health insurance premium is more than your mortgage, Ellen Deal with Ideal Solutions is here to help. Whether you're a small business owner, individual, family, or baby boomer, email maga45cag@gmail.com and I'll respond with 3 easy questions to help you determine if you can get away from Obamacare. As a 20-year veteran of the insurance industry, I'm here to help with all your insurance needs. Email Ellen Deal at maga45cag@gmail.com.
This is Ron Camacho, host of the Business Hour, on Fridays from 10 to 11 a.m. Join me as I talk with passionate professionals on a program that profiles the best businesses, business professionals, business practices, and fascinating individuals to get an insider view of how America works. 10 to 11 a.m. on America's Web Radio.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Well, welcome back to the final segment of the Safe Senior Hour, and we're very fortunate today to have Lynne Reeves, the Director of Northwest Georgia Area Agency on Aging, the AAAs. It's always easier to say the AAAs, and the Assistant Director, Lindsay Wilson, talking to us about education in the community, and my hat's off to them. They are the leaders in Georgia, if not in the Southeast, of getting this information out to their area. And for the people just coming on, they have a 15-county area that they serve. And that's primarily rural, isn't it, Lynn or Lindsay?
Yes, it is. As we're about an hour from Atlanta, so of course as you get closer to Atlanta, it changes somewhat, but we do have a primarily rural area.
And this is why this education, I mean, they do have a city. We're going with them to put on a seminar for seniors coming up in the near future here for hopefully 150 seniors to address the financial scams that affect seniors. And again, that brings people together from the metro area of Rome, Georgia. And my hat's off to them. They were the driving force behind this, and that's what we need out there. That's what we need out throughout the United States. You need the community getting together and bringing the information directly to the seniors here. Go ahead. Excuse me.
I was just going to say, most area agencies on aging have what's called an ADRC, or Aging and Disability Resource Connection. And all of those, we have one here, and all of the AAAs in Georgia have those. But those groups have to have advisory committees or advisory councils. And if someone's not sure how to get plugged in, I would say, too, to reach out and ask about when is your next advisory council meeting, when's your next advisory committee meeting, and go to that and say, this is what my interest is, how can I help? And they'll work to get you plugged in.
Well, if you would all be so kind, can you give everybody what your website is so that people around the country, in case they have questions, they can go to your website and then email you and or Lindsay and answer questions? Because I think this is important, especially after reading the survey here, which we'll go into a little more, that education is everything.
Sure. Our website is www.areaagencyonaging in NWGA, which is Northwest Georgia.com. So it's Area Agency on Aging in NWGA.com. They can just Google, Area Agency on Aging in Northwest Georgia. There's a link to contact us. Of course, there's our phone number, but you can just email that you would like more information to be contacted, and we'll be happy to do that.
And we'll help you try to find, their counterpart in your area, if there is one. I'm sure there is one, but the idea is, you might be able to take the lead out there, some of the listeners, to get your community involved here in this educational process. The survey that I just talked about, that was done again, in cooperation with the Better Business Bureau and with the Federal Trade Commission and 3 or 4 other entities and PhDs that formed the survey and took it 1,500 people, roughly 1,400 people in the USA and Canada. But it would say sources of information about scams. This is what the survey showed, what the people out there, what the seniors that are out there that were looking at this. And again, I'm not sure all these people were totally seniors, but it crosses over, and this is good information for everybody. They claim in the survey, the respondents of the survey, that the first thing they saw were news stories. So, and I know you all up there have tried to assist and help in any way of getting it out on news stories that were printed, that then we talk about it when we go to our meetings. So the news stories are a great source. I think that's a fair statement. I get the news stories, whether it be TV or be on in print media. And what I think about was the story up at on the institutional issue of the nursing home up in North Georgia, where the woman died without some question about the care. So, right, you remember that? You all remember that one, right?
Yes. Absolutely. And you're right. We, if we are made aware of or we read a current scam, we use all of our resources to get that information back out to the community.
Well, the next popular one was going to a website. Now, whether it be yours or through websites where people handle it. I know the Federal Trade Commission has a great website, Better Business Bureau, but that's another place to go. And then the other one is TV, radio, public service announcements. I think that's something I haven't seen that many here. I don't know whether you all have done any. What's your thoughts on those?
We have not done. We have not. We do have radio announcements, and we have some TV. It's more about our services, not directly related to scams. Mm-hmm. Every 3 months, we change over our radio announcement, and we're about to change that to elder abuse. So we're about to do a heavy focus on that for the next 3 months. One tool that we use, I don't know if it's on your survey, and I definitely don't want to jump ahead, but social media is a good way for us also to put a message out.
You're looking at the survey. This is the next one, social media.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that'll be sorry. No, that's great, and I think that's great. And again, so we listen to our listeners, and they heard us say it over and over again, elder abuse doesn't report itself. Remember that. So, but you all use social media. How do you do that? What's your tools? What do you use there?
We use a lot of Facebook. We attempted Twitter. We've just not been as successful with that, but we do a lot of Facebook. The state of Georgia uses a lot of Facebook. The Department of Human Services Commissioner has a Facebook page, and the Division of Aging. So they are very active on it. But we post events. We post just information to just to get it out there. When we hear of things, that's where we go to post information quickly.
Well, I think that's great. I think social media is the wave of the future, and I think more and more people need to do that. The next one they list is word of mouth, and that I think comes from our meetings. I think that gets passed on, and I know Lindsay, we talk about that all the time when we're there, is that there's only so many law enforcement people up here or regulatory people. And we bring at these meetings give the audience some ideas of who's at the meetings.
Local law enforcement, including Sheriff's Office, County Police Department, City Police Department, Adult Protective Services join us. Sometimes we're fortunate enough we have ombudsmen there from our area, Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Sometimes we even have local attorneys and prosecutors involved with us as well at this meeting.
And we have opened up some of the meetings to legislators, so they hear the problem. because this problem is sometimes it's kind of like underground, that people don't realize what is happening to our seniors. So that's how we get the word of mouth, because we tell them there's only so many people up here in the front of the room in our conversational period that they can't arrest everybody. And we can't get out there and tell everybody, but each one of the people that attend the conference, go tell your relatives, go tell your friends, and that's how it spreads, word of mouth. And I think that's really significant, and that's probably the best way. The next two, and I know we're getting close to the end of our segment, but is educational brochures, and you all make up your own. Can you go into that, Lindsay or Lynn?
Well, we've kind of adapted a brochure from the Marietta Police Department here in Georgia. They have been very nice in allowing others to use their information and put our logo on it. So we've been very fortunate that we didn't have to recreate anything, that they created it and let us use it. We'll give this out when we go out to any events, not just the talks that we have, right, or the conversations, but also other community events that we go to, maybe a health fair or a wellness expo. We give this information out anywhere and anytime that we can. And
those brochures, just some topics. What are the brochures that you're looking at?
It gives phone numbers, some phone numbers such as Adult Protective Services or healthcare facility regulation. It gives the types of abuse and warning signs for physical, neglect, emotional, sexual, financial. It also talks about who is a mandated reporter.
Right. And there's also one on power of attorney. I mean, these brochures get out, and we hand them out to the people. We also hand out a brochure concerning financial frauds. And the last one, which we've talked about, is in-person meetings, and we've all done those. But as we're pushing the end of our segment, I want to thank you all for the great job you do, and I appreciate you for coming on today. And for our listeners out there, please, if you have any questions, contact Lindsay or Lynn, and we already gave them the website, or contact us here at America's Web Radio. With that, I want to thank you all, and that'll end our last segment today on the Safe Senior Hour with Joe Gavalis. Elder abuse doesn't report itself, remember.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.